Hi guys, so in today's video I'm going to show you my ride on Lucy. I don't think I've shown very much of her at all on this channel, I think on any of my, because I really didn't get serious about riding her until maybe, I want to say 4 or 5 months ago. I really started buckling down and trying to get her going. She's kind of been my semi-retired slash actually retired for some of the time horse for a while now. So I've been working mostly on Lucy's flat work and trying to get her a lot stronger, fitter, and just more rideable. She's had some soundness issues that I think have mostly sorted out by now. So the real focus has been really getting her canter going and getting her to where she was rideable enough I could collect her, let her lengthen a little bit. Nothing very fancy, but you know, a basic dressage education so she was at least rideable over fences. And then I've done very little jumping with Lucy. I've done a lot of pole work. She has a lot of anxiety about going over things, and she tends to just take over and charge things and flat out gallop, knocking everything over and scaring herself in the process. So that's why I really focused on rideability with her before I really did much jumping. So this is my first serious jump school on her, really ever. I've done some fences here and there, and I've done a lot of pole work, but I don't think I've ever connected fences before with her. So I'm gonna show you my flat work kind of leading up to it, and then actually her over fences and kind of talk you through it. So let's go ahead and jump right into the video. Alright, so this is when I first got on Lucy. We're just having a little walk around. I'm making sure that the camera is actually tracking us since I'm not quite good at working it. Here's a little more walking. You can see I'm asking her to step her hind end under a little bit more. If I want to critique this, her back is still pretty hollowed out. She's dropping her head, but there's not a whole lot of lift through her back and lift through her shoulder. And that's been our focus on this dressage work, is really getting her to start lifting through her core and her thoracic sling. She's getting a lot stronger and she's able to do a lot more solid work. But you can see she still has that tendency to want to curl, get on her forehand, and you can see where she'd easily get quite rushy from that. So I went ahead and moved into trot. That transition sucked. And you can see I'm bouncing around like a sack of potatoes. I will tell you I'm not riding Lucy bareback because I chose to so much as I don't have a good saddle that fits her. So I'm really trying to keep my hands soft and quiet. I'm not doing a very good job. Bless her soul, she's being really quite a doll considering what I'm doing up on her back. And I'm just asking her for some light bending, reminding her to engage her haunches, seeing if I can get that trot to become a little more round so that I can stay with her a bit better. I'm paying careful attention to that pace because once she gets to running, I have no ability to stay with her, and I'm just bouncing around on her back and she's trying to take off. So that's really fun. And I am showing you the entirety of our flat warm-up. So you can see I did not do a whole lot with her, but just trying to get her a little bit warmed up and get her to get an idea of staying soft to those reins and engaging her hind, because I know that's going to be important when we go ahead and move on to going over fences. So that was all the trot I did. My legs were dying. I clearly need to ride bareback more. So I went ahead and did this walk to canter transition. I frankly don't think I'd ever done a walk to canter until last week on her, and they're horrific. So I really did that because I have so much trouble with her trot, just staying on it, that I thought it's better to just get over that trot and move on to the canter. But you can see it took me a long time to get this canter to be somewhat decent. This canter here I'm pretty happy with. You can see she's a little bit on her forehand, a little tipped down. When she brings her shoulder up, it's through bracing the bottom of her neck. So we're still not getting a lot of lift. Her haunches are a little out behind. There's a lot to work on in this, but it's pretty quiet. It's a nice steady pace. Would love if I could get her to go a touch slower just occasionally, but I'm able to kind of keep her there. I'm really happy with that, and that's basically been my focus in the canter, is just some sort of organization. So then I go ahead and bring her back to a trot, and you see I'm bouncing and pissing her off. So just flexing her a little bit, asking her to move her haunches under, seeing if she can't stop so that I can stop bouncing and stop pissing her off, because that's not a very productive situation. All right, so after a little walk break, we go ahead and pick up a trot this way. I'm trying to get that trot a little bit organized, and then I ask her to canter. I knew that I couldn't ask her to canter straight off this direction because this direction tends to be her more rushy direction. So you can see she did start more organized because I did have some sort of organization in that transition. But this way she's quite four-beated. That right hind is her weakest leg, and she struggles to push off, so her canter gets a little bit disunited. So I'm asking her to try to relax the bottom of her neck a little bit. There she goes, that's a bit better. And see if I can't get her hind to push a little bit more evenly. But that is definitely still a work in progress. She's still doing a lot of work with that left hind, even while cantering this direction. And that right hind should really be what lifts her front end off the ground. And you can see she's getting a bit buried in the sand. She has a lot of trouble lifting that front end off the ground. And I am holding her pretty short here. It's not so much that I want her to collect, it's because if I give her too much room, she just gets fast on her face. So I am keeping her kind of short, reminding her to try to balance. Here we're getting into a little fight. She wants to hang on me and get hollow and quick. So I'm just sticking in there. And then when she softens, you can see I gave her a little release on the rein. I am trying to encourage her to lengthen and stretch out, but again, not do that and get fast. Then we go ahead and drop down into the trot. This downward transition was much better because she did kind of understand that if she stopped, I would stop bouncing on her. And that was our whole warm-up. So here we're cantering off, and we're gonna go ahead and do our first fence. And I'll let you see what happens. Alright, so I did include that stop in this video because I thought it was something I really wanted to talk about. A lot of people might have tried to push her over that fence and get after her for that stop. You can see how I felt she was sucking back, and I just kind of let it happen and let her come to a stop. And then when she stopped nice and straight and even at the middle of that cross rail, I gave her a pat, took a breath, and just walked off. As simple as that, because the big thing about her is I want her to feel comfortable going over things, and I want her to relax going over them. So if I get her in trouble for that stop, then I'm just gonna have more anxiety coming up to my fences. I don't mind so much if she stops, as long as she learns how to go over things. And she's a very careful horse, and that kind of gets in her way a little bit. So like I said, I let her have the stop. I'd much rather her stop than her, and stop in a calm way, than her dirty stop, spin out. Or if I had pushed her, what I know would have happened is we would have dead galloped it. She would have just launched herself, gone through it, and taken off bucking after. And that doesn't build us anything. So There is going to be a time where she's a little more solid when I'll start addressing that stop and encouraging her to keep going. But right now, I let her have the stop. I moved on, didn't get upset about it, and we went on with our school. So let's go ahead and show you how she came at things after having that stop. All right, so you can see she's kind of hyped up. She's expecting something terrible to happen. So I'm just riding her canter. Again, trying to organize her, get her going a little better. Exactly what I've been doing on her flat. We just have introduced a lot of tension into it. But it gets better as we come around. I'm getting happier with this canter. I have learned fussing with her too much doesn't help things. Sometimes we just have to make things happen and learn we didn't die. And that was beautiful. She waited, she found the spot I was asking her for. She did kind of land in an unorganized way, but you look at how fast I was able to get her back and come back at it. And I'm just so pleased that as we're going around, you can see she's getting a lot more confident. She's feeling a lot better about these fences. And that's really all I want from her is I want her to be relaxed. I want her to be finding the spot I'm asking her for, not taking over, and feeling good about her fences. You can see she got a little worried coming up to that one, but I was able to get her attention back and get it done. And I was just so happy that she was able to listen and be calm enough to do that. So we took a little breather after that and both caught our breaths. And on to part 2 of our jumping. There you can see she got a little strong and ahead of me, so we got our super chippy spot, and you can see how upset and stressed that made her. So I just stuck firm with that boundary and kept riding her and strove to get a better spot to this one. You can see I really held her back to make sure that I could let her go a bit at the end to get that distance. And that fence I'm really happy with. She got the exact spot I want and stayed pretty organized through it. So we went ahead and we're done there because I was just so happy she was able to stick with me for a bit on that jump school.